Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into the science behind a universally relatable and frankly incredibly annoying pain. Yep, we're talking about the dreaded mouth ulcer. You know the exact feeling I'm talking about. That sharp, stinging sensation every single time you try to eat, drink, or honestly, even just talk. And I'm willing to bet that whenever you complain about one, someone in your life inevitably chimes in and tells you to just eat more salads. Well, today we're systematically debunking that age-old advice using actual medical data, and we're going to figure out what's really causing these painful little sores. So let's start with the big question. Because pretty much all of us have been told, at some point or another, that downing fruits and vegetables is like this magical shield against mouth ulcers. It gets passed around like absolute medical truth. But is it? Like, if you just eat enough leafy greens and carrots, are you literally guaranteed to never get another painful sore? We really need to look at what the science actually says here. Before we completely shatter the myth, we have to define exactly what we're dealing with. What you call a mouth ulcer or a canker sore is known clinically as recurrent aphthous stomatitis. And understanding that definition is actually absolutely crucial because it highlights that this is a really complex, multifactorial condition. It's like a giant puzzle. It's not just a simple switch that flips on and off based solely on what you decided to have for lunch. To understand the real causes, we have to look way deeper than just your daily diet. And the simple answer to our core question is, well, not necessarily. The source data explicitly gives us this direct refutation. Now, does this mean fruits and vegetables are totally useless? No, absolutely not. The vitamins and antioxidants they provide are undeniably helpful. But, and this is a really big but, they absolutely cannot guarantee that you won't get another ulcer. The whole idea of a permanent cure coming from a bowl of broccoli is just completely false. Because instead of a magical lack of vegetables being the one single culprit, there's actually a really multifaceted web of causes. We're looking at 7 distinct triggers identified in the clinical data. Yes, a lack of vitamins and minerals, specifically things like B vitamins, iron, folate, and zinc. That is definitely on the list. But look at all the rest. You've got stress and lost sleep causing massive immune fluctuations, maybe from pulling an all-nighter. You have oral friction. You have eating highly spicy or physically overheated foods. There are hormone shifts. Underlying illnesses and certain medications play a huge role. And finally, just simple genetic predisposition. Some people are just naturally more prone to getting them. Let's actually zero in on a specific trigger to show you what I mean. The friction factor. I mean, we can all empathize with how incredibly annoying it is to accidentally bite your own lip or cheek while you're chewing, right? That is a perfect example of a mechanical trigger. If your braces are constantly rubbing against your inner cheek, or if you have a really sharp tooth that keeps scraping the delicate tissue in your mouth, a sore is going to form. It's pure physics. And no amount of kale or spinach in your diet is going to stop a sharp tooth from causing physical trauma to your mouth. Now, what's super interesting here is that we aren't throwing the baby out with the bathwater. The eat your veggies advice didn't just come out of thin air. It just got wildly oversimplified. The data clarifies that there are very specific, pretty narrow scenarios where eating more greens is actually the right, scientifically backed solution to your ulcer problems. So what exactly are those scenarios? Well, if your ulcers are genuinely caused by unbalanced nutrition, let's say you're a notoriously picky eater, then yes, diet absolutely helps. If you're living on a low-fiber, takeout diet relying heavily on processed delivery foods day in and day out, you are more than likely missing essential nutrients. Plus, if you constantly experience chronic dry mouth or that persistent awful internal feeling of being on fire, then the vitamins, the high water content, and the antioxidants from fresh fruits and vegetables will genuinely come to your rescue and help cut down on those occurrences. But we really need to draw a line here and frame the difference between a simple dietary nuisance and a serious medical red flag. On the one hand, you have the mild issue, right? Occasional sores popping up because you had a bad diet week or you were super stressed out about a project at work. But on the other hand, if your mouth ulcer lasts for over 2 weeks without healing, if it's exceptionally massive and just exquisitely painful, or if it's actually accompanied by systemic symptoms like a fever, diarrhea, or a skin rash, guys, we are in a completely different ballpark. This is no longer just about eating less meat and more veggies. Which brings us to a really vital takeaway. If your diet is totally flawless, you're eating all your greens, your macros are perfect, but you are still suffering from constant recurrences, or you hit absolutely any of those serious red flags we just talked about, you need to go seek professional help. The source data strongly advises visiting a stomatology department or an internal medicine specialist. Please do not just keep buying expensive organic fruit hoping a severe, 2-week-old, fever-inducing ulcer is going to magically vanish on its own. Okay, so for the vast majority of us dealing with standard, everyday, frustrating recurrences, how do we actually rebuild our defense? Here is your actionable 4-step prevention game plan to tackle that complex web of triggers we outlined earlier. Step 1, prioritize your sleep and actively work to reduce stress so you can stabilize your immune system. Step 2, eat a truly balanced diet. And notice, the source says that means fruits and veggies for sure, but also proteins and whole grains. Step 3, avoid overly sharp or spicy food irritants that can physically damage the inside of your mouth. And Step 4, maintain strict oral hygiene to keep bacteria at bay. It's a combination approach, you know? It's not a single magic bullet. Now, if you're doing all 4 of those steps right and you are still suffering from constant annoying recurrences, I highly recommend remembering this diagnostic checklist. The data shows that specific nutrient deficiencies are major culprits. So next time you see your doctor, ask them to run blood tests for these 4 specific levels. Check your iron by specifically testing ferritin, check your vitamin B levels by looking at B12, and then test your folate and your zinc levels. Pinpointing a real clinical deficiency here can completely change the game. Okay, as we wrap this explainer up, I have a pretty provocative plot twist for you, pulled straight from the clinical data. Let's say you have an active, painful ulcer right now. Your very first instinct, based on that old myth, might be to load up on vitamin C to heal it, right? So you go grab a pineapple or a citrus fruit like an orange. Stop right there. Because these fruits are highly acidic, eating them while you have an active ulcer will actually irritate the raw tissue and make it hurt significantly more. The very fruit you thought would cure you will literally cause you a ton of unnecessary agony. Which leaves us right here. We've mapped out the real triggers, from lack of sleep to sharp teeth. We've outlined exactly when you need to go see a doctor, and we've totally shattered the illusion that all produce is just some magical cure-all. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. The next time that familiar, awful sting of an ulcer strikes, and a well-meaning friend tells you to go eat an orange or a big salad, are you absolutely sure you know which fruit you should actually reach for? Thanks so much for joining me on today's explainer, and hey, here's to a healthier, completely pain-free mouth.